the Night Stalker, or the Night Strangler, or Kolchak the Nightstaker. Great show, had 3 different names. For that was because the original one, the Night Strangler, was supposed to be a one-off. Then they had the Night Stalker, supposed to be like a sequel, like a television movie. But it was so popular that they decided to make those the first 2 episodes of a TV series. And Darren McGavin got his best performance, his best show, one of the best shows on television at any time. He plays a reporter. Started out in Las Vegas, and then he went to Chicago. The story went to Chicago. He didn't move there. The story took place in Las Vegas. They didn't like Las Vegas, so the producers changed it and said, he's in Chicago now, man. Same company, same people, everything. They just moved it and never said anything. They were just like, oh no, he's in Chicago, man. Which is cool, because, you know, I dig the show. It didn't matter where it was at. They could have said Saskatchewan, and I'd have been like, oh, okay. He's a reporter with perhaps the worst luck of any reporter. Almost every time he's sent out on a mission to cover a beauty pageant, to cover a brand new gym, to cover a mob hit, no matter what it is, it's always something supernatural. A unfrozen caveman, an alien, or maybe an alien spaceship. They didn't really clarify that. A werewolf, a vampire, a couple of vampires actually, Jack the Ripper. It's all kinds of stuff. And every time he went out, he would run into a monster. I probably would have quit that job. If I'd have went out Monday to my job, you know, whatever it may be, and they say, oh, hey, man, there's a monster in the closet. I'd have been like, oh, and I left. Okay, there's a monster in the closet. That's the reason you leave. There's a shark in the water. That's the reason you get out of the water. There's a monster in the closet. That's the reason you leave the house. I'd have left. And then if I'd have gone out a second time, the company would have sent me out again, and they'd have been like, oh, it's a werewolf. I'd have been like, you know what? I believe I have had enough of this job. And I'd have quit. But he just kept going for years. He just kept going out and fighting monsters. And he never once said, it's odd that every time I go out there, there's a monster. He never says that. He just goes out as if the day before he didn't just fight a female vampire. As if the day before he didn't fight basically the Ghost Rider, a headless dude on a motorcycle with a flaming head. He just goes back out again. This story, this show, leads to a lot of other shows. Millennium, actually the writer of the X-Files got his inspiration from this show. 2 FBI agents, every time they go out, it's something supernatural. He gives credit to this show so much that he says that the Darren McGavin character, Carl Kolchak, leaves the newspaper, joins the FBI, and starts the X-Files with Mulder's father, which made sense, and it blew my mind. Darren McGavin even shows up in an episode or 2 of the X-Files, which is kind of cool. I don't think he was playing Carl Kolchak, though. I can't remember what his name was, but it alluded to that fact. He always had to look up things and research things to find out how to kill that great big zombie. And, you know, in the movies today with George Romero, after George Romero, zombies were dead, but their brain was, a part of their brain was active, and it just said feed, eat, eat, eat. And they would do anything to get the people to eat them. But if you pierce the brain with a bullet or crush their skull or whatever, that was it. That is not how you killed the zombies before that. Darren McGavin's character, Carl Kolchak, had to find out how to kill a zombie. You had to get them and a pentagram of candles. So you had to set up 5 candles in the form of a star. And then you had to get the zombie, fill his mouth with salt, sew his mouth closed, and then choke him to death. Or hang him, but it had to be done inside the pentagram. Now, if there's a zombie apocalypse, how you gonna do that? You ain't gonna be able to do that. Other zombies just gonna stand still while you work your way through killing one and then get up completely exhausted and be like, whoo, who's next? They had to find a faster way to kill these almost unkillable things, because it's like vampires. Certain ways you gotta kill them. Werewolves, certain ways you gotta kill them. Zombies used to be a certain way you had to kill them. And the way that you had to kill them was so intricate, and so much work had to be put into killing just one of them, that George Romero was like, you know what, just shoot him in the head, man. Just shoot him in the head. So that became the thing. So now Walking Dead, all that stuff, bang, 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 you just shoot them in the head, man, and they're dead. So he went through, Carl Kolchak had to find out how to do all of these things. For each and every single episode, he had to find out a specific way to kill that moss monster. You know, that male vampire, Jack the Ripper, he had to find all these different ways to kill him. That essentially became the lore. Like Supernatural. Supernatural has a book of different ways to kill things, different ways to hunt things, different ways to learn what this was as opposed to what that was. Why this thing did this thing and that thing did that thing. It gave you explanations on all of the monsters. I think that they should say that it wasn't the Winchester's father or grandfather. It was Darren McGavin's character that started that book. That would be super cool if they made that the thing, because he always was gathering information, going to different people and talking to them, going to the library, going to different places and finding information. He built that lore. So what he had to do, what the show was about, this guy was kind of a down on his luck, kind of a shisty kind of a guy, and he had shisty friends and stuff like that. He knew mob figures. He knew people who worked at the morgue that he could slip a 22 and they would do things for him that were illegal. He was a kind of a shisty guy. And he was also a reporter for INS. And he would go out and he would find these stories and he'd make, $100 or whatever he made. The movie was in the 70s. The show was in the 70s. So he didn't make a ton of money compared to what you would imagine would be a ton of money today. So he lived a fairly mediocre life. They never really showed his house. It was basically that white suit and that one hat and his little sports car. And that was pretty much it. They never really showed his house. They never really showed his family. It was just the job, the car, and the location where the monster was. Sometimes he'd walk around and he'd talk to people. He would actually start to do a job. He pretends to have interest in this particular shaman type guy that he's supposed to do a report on, but he gets interested in one of the people that was trying to sell that dude a house because they have knowledge that can help him. So he's finagling his way around. He never really writes the story. So I don't know how he's not fired. They sent him out to do a report on a brand new a luxury ship that's going to take people out to sea for a cruise, 5 days or whatever it is. And he meets a werewolf. So he spends the whole time trying to fight and kill the werewolf. Nobody else on ship really believes him, or at least that's what they say. The captain actually assigns a group of men to find the werewolf, because after a couple of his people gets killed, he quickly understands what's going on. He assigns some men to go out and try to beat the werewolf to death with sticks, and that's not going to work. They didn't read the lore. So he's on there and he's helping him. He's trying to fight the werewolf. And he finally gets the werewolf, and he's like, it's over, yay. And then he goes back home. He never wrote the story. Every time he goes out, you know what? One time he did write the story. That woman that I just spoke about, the thing that he wanted her to do was write his story for him, his byline. And he would take care of the rest. So that time he did get his story written, but he didn't write the story. He took some pictures of vampires and stuff, but he didn't write the story. So I don't know why they kept him there. Deep dive into what was happening. I think his boss, Vincenzo, was an angel that was guarding over him. Even though it looked like he was giving him grief, he's guarding over him. Because every time he sends, he's got a room full of reporters. Everybody gets a regular assignment except for Kolchak. Kolchak always gets a monster. Something always happens to help him. There's a little old lady that's working in the office, and she gives him little pieces of advice, gives him an umbrella to take out one time. She just says certain things and does certain things. It seems nonchalant and it doesn't really have anything to do with his missions, but sometimes it does. I'm thinking she's an angel or maybe a witch or something, because she's subtly helping him. You know? You get an umbrella, and it's got like a wooden tip that just so happens to be the type of wooden tip that would kill a monster. And you know, he takes it with him because she gave it to him. You know, I think that Kolchak is a regular dude. You know, he's a down on his luck kind of a guy, like say Noah from the Bible, the drunk. He was just some dude that the forces that may be figured they could manipulate him into doing a job for them. Sort of like the Winchesters. Turns out that God and the angels were positioning them to fight certain things, and God often, Thanos snapped them out of trouble. The devil was going to kill the Winchesters, and they woke up, and they was on an airplane in a whole nother state. God snapped his, I think it was Raphael, the angel, but on God's, God wanted it to happen, and they got moved. I think that's what's happening here. I think in this show, it seems like he's just some slob, just some down on his luck, bummy kind of guy, but forces around him are putting him in dangerous situations so that he can deal with dangerous situations. Because there's no way, if I'm the boss, I send you out on a job once and you come back without results. Twice and you come back without results. And I think, yeah, you're my best reporter. And I just keep sending you out and you never come back with what I asked you to bring. The story. Never. So, and sometimes he wrote a different story and Vincenzo would ball it up and throw it away, or the police would tell him, don't write that story, or something like that. So there's no way that would happen. And there's no way that a dude would go out to work and there's a monster in a closet that chases him and almost kills him. And then there's another monster and it almost kills him. And then another one and another one. Why would he go back to work at that place? It has to be something more going on than what they reveal to the audience. He's in one city, but he keeps dealing with different police chiefs and commissioners and stuff like that. The title of the police guy changes a lot so they can bring in different people. But I would speculate that that's maybe another evil force, because the face changes all the time. He acts like he doesn't see it. It's one guy this week, it's a different guy that week, it's another guy that week. Now, in all honesty, they probably just, hire different people. That's probably what happened. But each episode, there's a different law enforcement guy that's in charge of the investigation. It's one city. How many homicide, how many people are in charge of homicide? Should be just one dude and a bunch of people up under him, right? But it changes. And I think there's a reason that face changes all of the time. That's part of the story too. I think that even if they didn't mean for it to happen, I think the writers wrote this in a way that it could be theorized that there's more going on. And as a kid, even as a kid, a little kid, because I mean, I was a little kid when this came out. Even as a little kid, I was looking at the TV and I was like, why would he go back to work tomorrow? He didn't see that monster? He's actually going to get dressed and go back to work and fight another monster? He just fought 3 of them. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why he would do that. And of course, it was a show. He had to go back out so they could continue the show. But in reality, why would he do that? I mean, definitely, you got to suspend belief on this show to say, I'd just go back to work. Got to pay the bills. You're not making that much. He'd go across the street and get a job. He'd go down the street and get a job. He could sell bottles. He could work at McDonald's. Hopefully there's no monsters at McDonald's. But there's a crazy looking clown. You know, there's been a lot of crazy clowns out there killing people, but I don't know. I would not have gone back. So there's more going on to it. This was probably one of my favorite shows of all time because I like horror shows. I like gratuitous violence. I like it when the monster gets the person and they got to try to fight the monster. Because as a little kid, you know, you see things in the night, you know, you hear something under your bed. It's good to watch a show and be like, oh, you could fight a monster. It's good to think that. I really, really, really like this show. I didn't like the remake at all, but I think there's a lot that they could work with and bring that back today and make a modern remake. Who do you think, if you've seen the show, who do you think would be a good Carl Kolchak today? I got a couple ideas. But I would give this show the Night Stalker, the Night Strangler, Kolchak the Night Stalker. I would give this show 10 bags of popcorn. 10 bags of popcorn. Because in my youth, when I watched it, and as an adult now, I've got the whole DVD set. As an adult now, I still dig this show. And for it to last that long and to make that kind of an impression on me, I have no choice but to give it a 10. It was a great show. But that's what I think. More importantly, what do you think? Now that you've seen the video, let's talk about it some more. And give me an idea who you think could do a modern day Kolchak show today. So now, if you like the video, if you like the content, subscribe. And then like.
Popcorn passport. Get your popcorn passport.